When it comes to Senator John Kennedy, he's not going to hold his tongue no matter who he's speaking to. Watch as he absolutely dismantles Kristen Welker's arguments on Meet the Press. You guys got to check this out.
Welcome back. And joining me now is Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Senator Kennedy, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Let's start off with this case of Mr. Abrego Garcia. You heard my conversation with Senator Van Hollen. The Justice Department called the deportation of Mr. Abrego Garcia a, quote, administrative error. The Supreme Court has ordered the government to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's return. Should Mr. Abrego Garcia be returned to the United States, Senator?
Well, Chris is my friend, and I respect him, and he's certainly entitled to his opinion, but in my judgment, he is utterly and gloriously wrong. I mean, most of this gauzy rhetoric is just rage bait. Unless you're next level obtuse, you know that Mr. Garcia is never coming back to the United States, ever. And that's not because of President Trump. That's because of Mr. President Bukele. He said up front in the Oval Office that he was not going to return Mr. Garcia. No federal judge, even Jay Wilkinson, has authority over a sovereign country. Besides that, it should not go unnoticed that Mr. Bukele is much closer to President Xi in China than he is to President Trump. Xi is spending billions of dollars to build infrastructure in El Salvador, and I wouldn't be surprised if they've discussed this case. The final point I would make, whether you agree with it or not, is Bukele hates MS-13, and Mr. Garcia allegedly is a member of MS-13. The other point I would make is that Chris says Mr. Garcia's had no due process. He's been in front of 17 judges, some of them twice, probably $5 million worth of legal fees, and he hadn't had to pay a dime. Final point I'd make, look, this was a screw-up, in my opinion. The administration won't admit it, but this was a screw-up. Mr. Garcia was not supposed to be sent to El Salvador. He was sent to El Salvador. The Democrats say, look, you know, we told you Trump is a threat to democracy. This is going to happen every other Thursday afternoon. I don't see any pattern here. I mean, you know, someday pigs may fly, but I doubt it.
Senator, this is notable because you are saying, in your words, this is a screw-up. I mean, are you concerned that more mistakes could happen?
Well, sure. None of us want mistakes. Mistakes bad. Doing it right, good.
Yeah.
But it was a screw up, and I understand why the administration is bowed up and said we won't admit it's a mistake, because if they do, they'll have their throats torn out. But it was a screw up. I don't see any pattern here. I've been listening to my Democratic friends say for, I don't know, since God was a child, that Trump is a threat to democracy. I don't see any pattern here. I see a screw up.
Well, and the concern for some people is that if there's one screw up, it does become a slippery slope. It is worth noting Mr. Abrego Garcia has not ever been charged with a crime. And in terms of what the courts are saying, they're not saying this is under the jurisdiction of the president of El Salvador. They're saying this is the responsibility of the U.S. government, the Supreme Court ordering the Trump administration to facilitate his return. And in a ruling this week, a three-judge panel on the U.S. Court of Appeals wrote, quote, the government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Do you believe Mr. Abrego Garcia is due to have due process?
Did you hear the key words that were in that memo? United States residents. It never said anything about a citizen. I don't know where the courts get off at telling the President of the United States that they need to house people who are not even documented citizens in this nation. Where have we failed as a country where this is commonplace? And this is exactly the reason why El Salvador was able to clean up their streets almost overnight. They were the murder capital of the world in 2021, whereas today they are one of the safest countries on earth. He has a 90% approval rating because he gets stuff done, which is exactly what Trump's trying to do, but the courts are doing anything it takes to try and stop Donald Trump and limit his ability to fulfill his campaign promises.
Well, I think, number one, he's had due process. But if your question is, should he have been given a hearing before he was sent to El Salvador, I think the answer is yes. But let me say something about the Fourth Circuit opinion written by Jay Wilkinson. Judge Wilkinson is a very clever, self-confident guy, but he left out one part in his opinion. What does he expect Trump to do? Declare war and go get Bukele? I mean, he brought Bukele to America. President Bukele sat in the Oval Office in front of God and country and said, I'm not sending this guy back. So I don't know what Judge Wilkinson expects Trump to do.
Well, the president could simply have asked for it back, and he may have brought him. But let me ask you about something you said just a couple of months ago.
How do you know he hasn't? But Kristen, how do you know he hasn't?
Well, he has said he doesn't plan to. I'm just basing this off of his public comments. The president has said he doesn't plan to. But let me just play something that you said. Okay. This is a couple months ago during a confirmation hearing for some of the president's DOJ officials. Take a listen. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Don't ever take the position that you're not going to follow the order of a federal court. Now, all our judiciary has, an equal branch of government has its legitimacy. It doesn't have an army. Don't ever say you're not going to follow the order of a court.
Do you believe that President Trump is following the orders of the courts right now?
Yes. And I don't believe that President Trump will defy a federal judge's order. If he does, I'll call him out on it. I believe what I said in the clip. I love the rule of law. I love it like the devil loves sin. I think if we start not following federal judicial orders, we undermine the system entirely. Now, that doesn't mean you can't criticize them. You can criticize them, you can appeal them, but you can't choose to not follow them, and I haven't seen President Trump do that. And if he does, I'll say very loudly and clearly that I think he's wrong.
Okay. Let me ask you about something else President Trump said this week. He said he would like to send what he called, and I'm quoting him, homegrown criminals, meaning U.S. citizens, to foreign prisons like the one in El Salvador. Senator, do you think the law allows the President of the United States to send U.S. citizens to a foreign prison?
No, ma'am. Nor should it be considered appropriate or moral. We have our own laws. We have the 8th Amendment to the Constitution. We shouldn't send prisoners to foreign countries, in my judgment.
Okay, let me switch gears here a little bit, ask you about President Trump's agenda, because I know you all are going to be very focused on that. Senate Republicans split right now, Senator, over whether to allow tax hikes on wealthy Americans as a part of that budget bill that you're trying to pass. Bloomberg News is reporting that the House proposal would set the rate at 40% for taxpayers earning $1 million or more per year. That's up from the current top tax rate of 37%. Senator, would you support increasing the tax rate on wealthy Americans?
I'm not sure yet. I'd like to see the language. Here are my thoughts, Kristen, generally. I don't believe in making tax policy on the basis of class warfare. And I think the people who are raising this issue, they're entitled to, of course, but they're asking the wrong question. I listened under President Biden, my Democratic colleagues for 4 years asked, who needs to pay more in taxes? That's, to me, is the wrong question. The right question is what the hell happened to the money? And I hope that's the question that we address fundamentally in the reconciliation.
Did nobody else see the waste, fraud, and abuse that were stealing away American taxpayer dollars spent on USAID on all these BS initiatives? Where do these people get off saying they need to tax us more after they just expose all this nonsense? If you want to be fair about the tax code, just do a flat tax for everybody involved. Because we all know if you tax the rich, you're never going to be taxing the rich. They know all the loopholes in the game. They will flee the country if they have to, and they will go to a different country that has more favorable tax laws. At the end of the day, if you study history, whenever you try and tax the rich, the only people it hurts is the middle class because they lose jobs, they lose opportunities, they lose health care, while the ultra rich have all the resources in the world to avoid paying that tax. They have all the best lawyers and they will find the loopholes in the tax system.
Leaving the door open to the possibility that you could ultimately at some point support an increase in taxes if you thought it was the best way to get that budget bill over the finish line?
Well, we're in the process of putting the bill together. And here's what will probably happen. The House and the Senate will spend about, hopefully no more than 60 days trying to reach a consensus. Everything's on the table. We won't reach a consensus. And then we'll have to go to the White House and meet with the president. And after a few hugs and a cup of hot cocoa, the president will arbitrate here and say this is in and this is out. And then he's going to have to put his muscle behind it to pass it. But this bill is important. It's our way of lowering prices. You lower prices by cutting spending, by deregulating the economy, and by designing a tax code that looks like somebody designed it on purpose in a way that stimulates growth so wages go up.
Senator,
and that's my objective in all this.
Senator, we are almost out of time, but as you know, tensions have been mounting between the president and the Fed chair. Would you support President Trump removing Jerome Powell as Fed chair?
I don't think any president has the right to remove the Federal Reserve chairman. I think the Federal Reserve ought to be independent. I think that Jay Powell and President Trump need to sit down and once again have a hug and a cup of hot cocoa and work it out. My experience with Jay Powell is that he's got tiger blood. He's going to do what he thinks is right. And he's not going to go down in history as the Federal Reserve chairman that allowed inflation to become wild as a March hare. And he's going to do what he thinks he's got to do.
Senator, very, very grateful for you to be on today to talk about tariffs, talk about the economy. But let me start where I was talking with Kristen Romans. When you have oil going below $60 per barrel, that starts impacting states like Louisiana, Texas, an awful lot. About a quarter, as you know, a quarter of your Louisiana's economy comes from jobs in the oil and gas industry. 300,000 employers. You can go on and on. But the bigger problem is that suggests that some of the smartest minds across the world are betting on a recession. What are you saying to your business leaders when they're calling you about where this goes next?
Well, this is what I'm telling them. With tariffs, an eye for an eye just leaves both people blind. When a government imposes a tariff, it's putting its thumb on the scale. It interferes with people's freedom to exchange goods and services. Some countries, China, the best example, have used trade barriers as a weapon to hurt the American economy. You said it. God created the world. Everything else is made in China. President Trump decided to try to change this. And he, as we know, has imposed dramatically higher American tariffs on these countries. But then, at least for me, an extraordinary thing happened. We have 195 countries in the world. Probably 40% have come forward, and instead of bowing up and fighting, they've said, we want to lower our tariffs. Will you lower yours? I frankly never saw that coming. I think it is a wonderful opportunity. Now, I don't want to feign understanding. I do not know what the president is going to do next. There's an internal debate and going on inside and outside the White House. I can just tell you what I would do, Joe. I would pounce on this opportunity like a ninja. And I would use this as an opportunity to reduce, or in some cases, Taiwan, Vietnam, European Union, go to zero reciprocal tariffs. And then we can have free trade, let the best product at the best price win. But I don't want to mislead you. I don't know what the president's going to do next. I know what I hope he does.
Yeah.
If you turn on the mainstream media, they're always going to constantly say Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing with the tariffs, this, that, and the other. It's such a bad idea. We're going to go into a recession. The entire economy is going to collapse. But just think about it. Washington, D.C. has always been run by politicians. For the first time ever, we have savvy businessmen in charge, people who are billionaires negotiating on behalf of the United States. They always want to talk bad about tariffs, but they never mention the fact all of these other countries across the world were tariffing us for years. We were getting fleeced. But I tell you what, Donald Trump knows how to make a deal, and he knows how to play a hand right. America is not going to be the laughingstock of the world. We're not getting ripped off any longer. If you want to experience the benefits of the American economy, you are going to have to make concessions. And I do believe every other country will bend the knee. It might not happen in a week, might not happen in a month, but eventually they're going to have to because there's too much at stake. And I truly do believe that's when we're going to enter the golden age of this country.
You know, Senator, on national news shows like ours and the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, obviously they're focusing on the losses on Wall Street. I'd love for you, if you could tell our friends that are watching right now, what's the impact on Main Street in Metairie, Louisiana, in Shreveport, all across your state? If these trends continue, what's the impact on family-owned businesses?
Well, the stock market matters. Wall Street and Main Street influence each other. What we've seen in the stock market, of course, has been painful. If you celebrate that, you hate little warm puppies. It's painful for two reasons. Number one, people lost a lot of money and they worked hard for it. But number two, you have to worry about the wealth effect. What does that mean? There's reliable data that shows for every $1 that the stock market drops, many consumers spend 25 cents less. And when you've got 62% of Americans exposed to the stock market, the danger is that they start spending less. And 70% of our economy is consumer driven. And if you're not careful with it, it can lead to a slowdown. Now, here's the good news. If you've watched the intraday swings, you'll see that every time the president talks positively about making a deal, the stock market goes up. And every time he backs off, the stock market goes down. That tells me that the fundamentals in the stock market are sound, but it tells me that the market is uncertain about the president's next step.
So Senator, there's an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today about the Republicans who forgot their economics. There's really no need to highlight those that the Wall Street Journal was talking about because I grew up in the Republican Party, and all of my friends that I've had most of my adult life in politics that are Republicans believe in free trade. Ones I came in with believed in balanced budgets, being fiscally conservative with a small c. I've got to believe that most Republicans like you believe in fair trade, but also believe in free trade. Where are they right now? And do you believe that Republicans in the Article 1 branch should step forward and take back some of this power to round off maybe some of the roughest edges on these tariffs that are going to hurt people in Main Street, USA?
Well, I've been preaching for 2 weeks on the Senate floor. I don't want to be at war with Canada. I've been preaching for 2 weeks that Canada and America should go to zero reciprocal tariffs. Here's my point. from one perspective, from my perspective, you may not share it. President Trump has won. We have an opportunity here. I hope he seizes it. But I don't know whether he will seize it or not. To answer your question, though, directly, I have not joined the Grassley bill. I'm not likely to join the Grassley bill. The Grassley bill will not pass, and if it passes, the president will veto it. I was not here when Congress gave away its power. I would not have voted to give away our power, but we did it. If we get on the Grassley bill, we'll just spend a year fighting with no results. And sometimes we can spend a year in Congress getting nothing done. And I just think it's a distraction. The most immediate question for me is, the president is a pit bull. He's won. He's caught the car. The question is, what's he going to do with the car? I know what I'd do.
Right. You also, I got a quote here that I'm going to have to put into my lexicon. You say he caught the car. He's got these foreign nations up to the lick log, as they say on the farm. What do we do next? I'm going to use that lick log.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good one. But, you know, Senator, I don't know that I would say the president's won yet, because we just don't know how this, like you said, we don't know how this is going to shake out. But he certainly has South Korea, the EU. He's got some of our strongest trading partners, Japan, saying, let's make a deal. It seems to me the president actually has proven his point, hasn't he? That except for China, and maybe he has to keep fighting China for a while, but for our allies, hasn't the president already sort of made his point, and these people now want to come to him and negotiate?
They keep mentioning that Donald Trump just won the tariff war with all these different countries, but in the same sentence, they're saying the tariffs were a mistake in the first place. Don't you think that's counterintuitive? And if either of these two were the president, they would have never took the extreme risk that Donald Trump did on slapping the tariff on all these different countries, and then there would be absolutely no concessions because we would just be doing more of the same. Donald Trump had to shock the system. He's willing to endure short-term pain in the markets because he knows in the long run it's going to bring back manufacturing, it's going to bring back jobs, healthcare into this country. He's willing to go through pain now for longer term benefits, and we will reach heights never before seen in this country. That's the type of person you want leading the charge. Someone who's willing to go through the thick of it right now because they know in the long run it's going to work out.
Your grandmother in Georgia will know what a lick log is. You might have to explain it. You might have to explain it to Mika, and to Willie, and to Jonathan. But
definitely
number two, when I say the president's won, here's what I mean. Would 40% of the 200 countries in the world be coming to America now trying to reduce their tariffs if President Trump had not done what he did? No. Every fair-minded American knows that. I just don't know what's going to happen next. In terms of China, look, China wants a deal. For them right now, it's not about the economy. It's about saving face. China wants a deal. China's economy is in worse shape, I'll be glad to talk about it if you want, than it's been in 25 years. They can't afford a trade war. They are quietly seeking a deal with President Trump, as are 40% of the countries in the world. I mean, the president's won. We wouldn't have this opportunity but for what he did. All I'm saying is, let's take it. You know, let's take it. Let's pounce on it like a ninja. I would be on this deal like a hobo on a ham sandwich, man. I'd have them lined up at the White House.
Write that one down, too. So let's go to Jonathan Lemire, the Massachusetts New Englander, who I think you are correct, Senator, has no idea what a lick log is. Nope. But Jonathan, I just want to underline a point that the senator made real quick before your question. Because of what President Xi has done over the past 5 years, basically because what he did in Hong Kong, because what he's done with people like Jack Ma, because he's encouraged his best minds, his best thinkers, his best entrepreneurs to leave China. Senator's exactly right. China's not exactly in a strong position right now.
No question. China's economy has also struggled of late, particularly in recent years, particularly post-COVID. I did get the reference on hobo on a sandwich. That one I got. So, Senator, on that idea of wanting to take this deal, President Trump, to this point, has not suggested he'd want to. He suggested this trade war could be prolonged for weeks or more. Your state obviously went strongly for President Trump in this last election. There's no question there. But as you talk to your constituents who are watching their 401ks, who are watching their retirement accounts, who are bracing themselves for higher prices, that seem to be escalating by the day, what are they telling you? What do you think their patience level is, and their pain threshold is going to be?
Well, they're like me. They're uncertain. My people are very supportive of President Trump. And I think they see what I see, which is that we wouldn't have this opportunity had he not been like a bulldog with these other countries. But now the question becomes, we have this opportunity. What are we going to do with it? I've heard the president make comments publicly and frankly privately. I've been in meetings with him on both sides here. And I've heard his people on TV all weekend make comments all over the map. Frankly, that's part of the problem. Some of them needs to stop talking, or at least before they speak, talk to their boss. I just think we're at a critical moment. I don't want to feign understanding. I have no idea what the president's going to do. I just know what I do.
Right.
And if you do it, you'll see the market. You'll see the market go back.
Okay, and if he doesn't, I guess, you've said you won't get on the Grassley bill, but what can you and other members of Congress do, and at what point will you act on behalf of your constituents?
Well, here's the world we find ourselves in. Congress gave the executive branch all of its power on trade. So it's up to the president right now. We can spend all our time trying to move a bill taking his power back, but Mickey, it won't pass. And number two, right now it's a distraction. All we can do is make our case. That's why I'm here. I'm making it publicly. I'm making it privately. I would take the deal. I don't know how else to say it. I can't predict the future. I have to wait for it like everybody else. But I do think that we'll look back a year from now if we take this deal and say what I'm saying today is that President Trump, he's won this fight. Now let's don't lose it by not taking the opportunity.
Yeah, don't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory seems to be your message, Senator. And again, just for those watching, of course, you'd have to get 60 votes in the Senate to pass anything and then override a presidential veto, which, as
the House,
as the senator said, is highly unlikely. Go ahead, Senator.
I was just going to say, you made the point, Joe. Pigs may fly someday, but I doubt it. It's just, we can get off on a trade bill, but man, I'm just telling you, it's just going to be a bunch of partisan pageantry.
If Congress stepped in to try and override Donald Trump and everything he's doing with the tariffs, that would completely sabotage all of the progress that he has made. Donald Trump is a master businessman. He wrote the art of the deal. Give him space. Let him do what he does best, which is make deals and secure the better end of it. He's done it all his life. He's perfected the craft. The man makes deals in his sleep. I have no doubts whatsoever. Yes, the American economy and stock market are in unfamiliar waters at the moment. But do I think this is going to last? No, absolutely not. So I'm urging Congress, do not step in. Do not try and handcuff Donald Trump and limit his ability to deal with these other countries in regards to trade. It might look rough today. It might look rough tomorrow, but give him time. Everything will work out in the end. Donald Trump holds the Trump card, which is the American economy, the American consumer. I mean, for goodness sakes, we make up 17% of Canada's GDP, and I think it was 37% of Mexico's GDP. Meanwhile, the two of those countries combined make up about 4% of America's GDP. They need us far more than we need them, and Donald Trump knows it, and he's going to negotiate good deals on behalf of us. Just give him time, give him space, everything is going to work out. That's my message. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. Are you panicked and spooked about what's going on in the markets right now, or are you salivating at all the opportunities going on in the market? Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you think it's all going to work out with Trump? Let me know. I'd love to know your opinions. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.